All right, so on the backside, we have a couple word problems. And in number 2, it says a biologist is modeling the population of just bats on a tropical island. When he first starts observing them, there are 104 bats. The biologist believes that the bat population is growing at a rate of 3% per year, determined to the nearest year. There's our rounding directions. How long it will take for the bat population to approximately reach 200. All right, so a little review from Unit 5. When there's a percent in our question, we know that this is exponential. And we have quite a few formulas for exponential. We have y equals ab to the x. We have a of t equals p times 1 plus r over n raised to the nt. We have a of t equals pert. Okay, and then we have our half-life formula, a of t. Oops, let me write there, so we'll have to go down here. A of t equals a sub 0, 0.5 raised to the t divided by h. So we have our 4 formulas for exponential. Notice that there wasn't anything about half-life, there wasn't anything about continuously, and there wasn't anything about compounding. So we know what formula we are using. Process of elimination. And now we have to figure out where these numbers go for which variable. So I'm pretty sure it says when he first starts observing them, that's our initial amount, which is our A value of 104. They also said that it's growing, and I know my B value is 1 plus. For growing, decaying would be 1 minus, and 3% would be 0.03. We're trying to figure out how long, which normally we have our time period from Unit 5, but in Unit 6, we might have to solve for it. So that's going to be our question mark. And we want our final amount of bats to reach approximately 200. They say approximately for rounding reasons. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put these numbers into our equation. So we have 200 equals 104. In parentheses, 1 plus 0.03 is 1.03, and then raised to the x. And so you can see right here, because now we're solving for time, okay, we're going to need logs. But on the front side, if you remember, you can only have 3 things to go into log form. You need a base, which is the 1.03, the exponent, which is x, and then a number. But you see we have 200 and 104. So we're going to do the same thing we did on those last couple questions on the front side of our notes, and we're going to divide by 104. So that is gone. Okay. 200 divided by 104, you can leave it as a fraction if you want, or you can use it as a decimal as long as you remember to not round that decimal since we're not at the end of our answer yet. Okay. And that's going to equal 1.03 raised to the x. And now you can see the 3 things that we have, the base, the number, and the exponent. So now we're ready to go into logs. And we know we need logs because we're solving for the exponent. So we're going to go ahead and write the word log. The base is what the exponent is on, which becomes our subscript. Then the number, which is the 1.92307 ... number, equals our exponent, which is x. Okay. This can be put into our calculator as long as we change it into a division problem. And all we have to do is simply type that in. And when we do, we end up with 22.12290 ... Okay. And remember the rounding directions, they want it to the nearest year. And so standard rounding rules, we're rounding the spot. That is not high enough to bring it up. And so we'll say x equals 22 years. All right. And that actually won't make it reach 200 since we rounded down. But that's why they're using the word approximately. Okay, approximately 200. So if we plug in our 22 into our answer here, and we type in 104 times 1.03 raised to the 22, it's not going to quite hit 200, but it's approximately 200. And we have the work to show. So that is good. All All right, so let's go ahead and see what the next question asks. Number 3 talks about a stock has been declining in price. That seems like a keyword. At a steady pace of 5% per week. If the stock started at a price of $22.50 per share, determine algebraically, which just means that we have to show work just like we did in question 2, the number of weeks it will take for the price to reach $10. Round your answer to the nearest week. Okay. So again, I don't think we saw the word half-life. We did not see continuously. We did not see compound. And so we're going to be using the same formula, y equals ab to the x. So we need y, a, b, and x. All right, so we have 5% per week, but remember that's declining. So that's 1 minus 0.05. If the stock started at a price, that's our initial value, which is our A. Determine algebraically the number of weeks. But because this is in weeks, that's going to be in weeks, so that's fine. And we want it to reach or final amount of $10. All right, let's go ahead and plug it in. So we end up with 10 equal to $22.50. 1 minus 0.05 is 0.95. And we don't know our time frame. Okay, we're going to have to do the same thing that we did in the last question. And the couple on the front, we're going to need to divide by that $22.50. So our base is isolated. Okay. 10 divided by $22.50 is a decimal. You can use the decimal, or you can math frac it and use 4/9, which might be a little bit easier. It's up to you. They're equivalent. And now we have our 3 things that we need for log form: our base, our exponent, and our numbers. So we're ready to go ahead and write log. Next to the g is our subscript, which is our base, which is 0.95. Then our number, which is 4/9, and then equal to our exponent, which is x. Okay. We'll put this into our calculator by rewriting it as log of 4/9 divided by the log of 0.95. Okay. When we type it in, we end up with x equals 15.80967. And that's going to round to the nearest week, which is what they told us to round to in the last sentence there. We're going to say x equals 16 weeks. And that's finished. All right, so because we rounded up, it's not going to be exactly $10. Okay, it's only going to be $10 if we use that full decimal. All right. And so if you plug it back in, you're going to realize that it's close to 10, just not exactly 10, but you go standard rounding rules. Okay. All right, next question, last question. It says Tammy invests $50,000 at a rate of 1.75% compounded quarterly to the nearest year. How long will it take for her investment to approximately, that's for rounding reasons, reach $75,000? So because we saw the word quarterly, remember that that word refers to the number of 4, n equals 4. And the only formula that has an n in it is that second one that we wrote up at the top. I'll write it again so it's down here so you guys can see, but it's a of t equals p 1 plus r over n raised to the nt. And so we need a of t, p, r, n, and t. All right. So Tammy invests, which is how much she puts in, which is known as your principal when you're talking about money, at a rate of 1.75. So our rate would be 0.0175. And we already talked about is 4 for quarterly. We're trying to figure out to the nearest year, so we don't know the time. And we know she wants it to reach 75,000, which is her final amount, or her A of T. All right, all we got to do is plug them in. So we end up with 75,000 equal to 50,000, 1 plus 0.0175 divided by 4 raised to the 4t, or 4 times t, either one. All right, so because we're solving for t, we're solving for an exponent, we know we need logs, but I feel like we have an extra, and we need to get rid of that extra so we get our 3 things, our base, our exponent, and our number, so we can go into log form, so we can finally solve for that exponent. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the 50,000 by dividing by it. That ends up being a nice 1.5. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up what's in parentheses. I'm going to type that right in my calculator, 1 plus 0.0175 divided by 4, and I'm going to hit the enter button. And when I do, I end up with 1.004375, and that is raised to the 4t. Now I have my base, my exponent, my number, and now I can go ahead and put this into log form. So I'm going to write the word log. My base is what my exponent is living on. My number, which is 1.5, and then equal to my exponent, which is 4t. This I'm going to go ahead and rewrite so I can type it in my calculator. We have log of 1.5 divided by the log of the base, which goes in the basement, and that's equal to 4t. Okay. Once I type that in, make sure you close the parenthesis after 1.5, and we end up with 92.88032 ... but that's equal to 4t. So to solve for t, we're going to go ahead and divide by 4 as our last step, and we end up with 23.22008 ... and rounding rule set to the nearest year. So the nearest year would be here. We'll look next door, and that's going to go ahead and say that t equals 23 years. All right, because we rounded down, it's not going to quite reach 75,000, but it said approximately reach, all right, to the nearest year. All right, and that one's done. So hopefully that you see the connection between exponential and logs, and that logs are very helpful to solve for exponents, especially when we're solving for a time frame like in these questions. All right, I'll see you guys in the next day.